this is Ross Harrison, fitness expert for Virtual Fitness Trainer, and today I'm talking about cables. I'm going to go through just a number of different exercises, but more I'm going to show different types of cables, different things you can do with them. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time explaining each exercise, but just show you a good variety of some basic exercises. So I'm going to start with a basic cable. This is actually a little more than basic, but it's same premise of two handles with a cable in the middle. So this is your basic, if you're doing a one-arm bench press, say, except with cable you're doing it standing. So just normal, press forward. Obviously you want to do everything with both arms equally. But that's a basic press. The great thing about a cable is, well, first, or I should say, you can easily adjust the difficulty. Step a little further away, becomes a little more difficult. Step, and eventually you get to a point where you feel the cable start pulling you backwards, and that's really going to make your core muscles have to work to keep your posture, keep your position, and obviously it works your arm and chest too. So as far as using the cable, I have little rings that I've drilled into the stud, but for most people, the simplest thing to do is just put one of these on a doorknob. So if, not when the door's closed, but when the door's open and coming out, just put one end on the doorknob, hold the other end, and as long as you're not jerking the cable all over, the resistance from the cable keeps it on the doorknob. I actually used these on doorknobs for probably 7 or 8 years, and well, just recently I moved to eyelets. But if you don't want to put holes in your wall, then doorknob's great, especially if you have some sort of attachment. Something like this, you can't get much simpler. It's essentially a double ring. But cable goes in one end, and it's actually made where the other end goes on the doorknob. But the benefit, and I'll just demonstrate using this, is once you double the cable, then obviously it's twice as strong, or twice as hard to pull. So going back to the press, you also can do both arms at the same time, but each press is significantly tougher. So again, you can still change the difficulty by moving further away or closer. But you get a lot of versatility just from a cable and an attachment cord. So another thing you can do, like if you do step workouts or if you use a step at all, they do make cables, essentially two different cables, but there's material that goes in the middle, and there's grooves on the bottom of the step. So the cable just slides right under there and stays in place. So from there you can do like curls and presses, or tricep things, or arms out to the side or front, or there's a lot of options. But it's just the step will essentially keep it in place. But having said that, you don't have to use it with the step, and you can still, if you don't have a step, you can just stand on it and do the same things. You can even put this around the doorknob, although it doesn't work quite as well, or I could put these on the attachment as well. But it gives you an option for a lot of the cables. They try to show you a lot of exercises where you actually stand on the cable. If you're doing a lot of stuff standing on the cable, it works better if you're not physically standing on cable. So like if I would use the first cable and stand on it, first it's an issue of wherever you step, it's going to change the tension. So if you don't step right, you have too much or too less tension on one side or the other. But with this one, it makes it so you have even tension if you're standing on it. But for most things, a regular, just basic cable, one long tube, will work great for tons of different exercises. Another option is, you may have seen these are like a ring. So obviously this is much shorter. You're not really meant to stand back and pull, although you can, but not as well. But this is more made for, say, like your ankles, although there are a number of things you can do holding it. But things like just taking some steps, this really works your abductor muscles. And again, these are things that are pretty simple. There's definitely machines in a gym to do them, but you're working at home. It's hard to work those muscles really well if you have like dumbbells or bars or other basic things, but just a simple cable lets you get some really important muscles worked really well with, almost no equipment and very inexpensive. So, and you can do other things too, just, standing, moving your legs in different directions. You can hold the handles and do some things pulling out to the side just for upper shoulder, upper back. This obviously not as versatile as a regular cable, but you can do a lot of little things that are harder to do with the other cables. And considering that the price of, say, a regular cable and one of these is much less than almost any piece of exercise equipment you can buy, a lot of people like having the options. Finally, one more thing I'll show is just, and I have this connected to a low cable, to a low spot on the wall, but you can, connect one end of your cable to any object that's not going to go anywhere, and this will still work. But if you have just an ankle attachment, there's a lot of, you can sometimes just buy and this is a really basic cheap one. This actually came with a cable setup of some kind that I don't remember. I think this is the only thing that I actually used from it. But you can take a leg attachment and just attach it to any cable that has a handle, and then attach it to your leg. And again, it turns the cable into essentially any combination. You can pull across, you can do things pulling back or forward. It gives you a lot of options. And again, this is just, it's one small attachment, very inexpensive, but you combine that with the cable and you get a whole nother host of options you can do. And this is showed a number of exercises quickly, but it's really just a very small sample of what you can do with some cables. I would definitely recommend just a simple attachment for a doorway or something. You don't need one of those big systems, and actually you'll end up probably paying more for like a big system that goes on a door. But you can get all the benefits and more just by buying a good assortment of cables. But that's a start. I would also suggest padded cables. That's one thing I didn't say. Some of them, like this one, is just plastic. A lot of people don't like it, but that should get you started. Thanks.